Alright guys, now we're going to do a simple project. Actually, I'm going to add 2 projects, but they're simple, not too complicated. It'll be an example like the ones we've done in our lessons anyway. Here's the idea. We're going to register a user. The user will sign up with basic info, username, password, and email for authentication purposes. But to define their presence within the application, they'll need more than just these. For example, they'll need a profile picture, an address, a phone number. They'll need to fill in some information about themselves as well. Basically, they need a whole bunch of information like this. So, what are we going to do here? Here's the logic we're going to follow. We're going to create 2 modules. The first module is for authentication. It's a submodule. The other is the user module, which handles operations related to the user's presence. You can actually think of these 2 modules as 2 separate microservices. One microservice will be the auth microservice, and the other will be the user profile microservice. They will communicate with each other via Apache Kafka. Because the logic is this, when a user is registering, their profile information also needs to be created. Think of it like this. Let's take the Instagram app as an example. What do you do in the Instagram app? You enter your information step by step, and then you sign up. So what happens to the personal information that you can fill in later after this process? You add it afterwards. In other words, the main goal of Instagram or similar apps is this, to get you into the app as quickly as possible. To do this, they take at least 3 out of these 4 general pieces of information, phone, email, username, and password, and let you into the system, guys. But aside from that, what do you do with extra information like uploading a photo, phone details, about section, more details, or date of birth? You add those later. Here, verifying the person's existence and performing their authentication processes when logging in is something related to the auth service. But after logging in, the user microservice will handle the other follow-up actions and information like profile picture, description, and so on. So, when you register with the auth service, you send a request to the user service. What happens then? You went to the auth service to sign up. Let's say it wrote this information to the database. Then it exited from there. It went to the user service. It said, "I've written this. You write it too." The user service will also write it and send a response back to the auth service. If everything is okay on both sides in the auth service, this is a peer-to-peer connection. So, think of it as something done with a FAIN client. In this kind of connection, after sending a request to the other microservice and receiving a response, it should tell the user that their registration was successful and let them in. Now, there are 2 situations here. One of them is that after you perform an operation within your own microservice, you send a request to the other microservice, and then you'll respond based on the reply you get from there. This will cause the response to that request to be delayed. That's the first problem. The second problem is, what if there's an issue with the user microservice at that moment, maybe due to an update or a network error, and you can't reach that microservice? Or maybe the load balancer is down at that moment and then comes back up. So, it could happen right at that exact moment. So what happens then? This time, the user has authentication information, but no user profile information. So what happens when they log in? There will be a problem. But if you do this with Apache Kafka, since there's a user profile service that's constantly listening to Kafka, if it's down at that moment and can't listen, it won't be able to fetch the data. But when it comes back up, since it will go and listen to that topic, it will receive the information it missed in order, according to the offset. So what will it do this time, according to that order? It will complete the save operation. In other words, it will save the user information of the person who is out. But sir, isn't there something odd here? I mean, if that microservice is down, isn't it the same situation? Actually, it's not the same thing there. If that microservice is already down, there will already be a problem with the user microservice during the login process as well. So, you might have logged out, but nothing will be working at that moment anyway. So, don't think of it like this: if the microservice isn't running, it's a problem in both cases. That's not the case. Guys, the situation isn't like that. When you don't use Apache Kafka and do it peer-to-peer, there will be data loss. But when you use Apache Kafka, once the system comes back up, it will continue from where it left off. Now, we're going to build an application that simulates this. We're going to write an auth module and also a user profile module. Guys, now, let's move on. We're going to add two modules here. The modules I'm going to add here are very simple and will be two modules related to Spring Boot. This is for the first module. I'm going to do this with Spring Initializer. I'm calling this auth-service here. The jar here will be version 21. Everything is set for the auth-service. In the auth-service, we're going to use Lombok. And on the other side, we'll use Spring Web. And what else do we need to add? For the messaging part, we need to use Apache Kafka. Guys, I'm creating it here by clicking Create. Now it has created an auth-service module for me here. That's the first one. Now I'm going to create the other one here as well. The other module is the user profile service. Here, I'm creating this one the same way. I click Next. Again, I'll select Lombok. From here, I'll select Spring Web, and for the messaging part, I'll integrate Apache Kafka into the system. Guys, as you can see, the auth-service and user profile service are ready. Guys, now, using these, I'll make it so that when someone registers through the auth-service via Kafka, their registration is also created in the user profile service. Actually, I want to use a PostgreSQL database to do this. So I can add its configurations here and see them. So, I'll register through the auth-service like this. The user profile service won't be running at that moment. Then we'll start it up. It will pull the data from Kafka, register, and create this record in the database. Guys, this was the first part of our video. In the second part, we'll continue writing the rest.